So if you've never been on a group ride before, you're going to want to pay attention to this week. Or if you've been on a few group rides and you're always that guy that's holding things up, maybe you want to pay attention to some tips this week and see if there's ways that you can help improve your group riding experience. Well, the first tip and technique that I've got for you is real basic, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do this, and that's come prepared. So what do I mean by coming prepared? Well, make sure you're filled up with gas. Make sure your tires and your bike are in good condition and they're ready for the trip. Make sure you've got the gear that you need. If it looks like there's a potential for rain, make sure you bring your rain gear with you and you're prepared for those circumstances. Before the group ride, you'll probably want to have a meeting where you get everybody together, you talk about the route that you're planning on traveling, where potential stopping points would be. And if you're the leader of the ride, you probably want to just print out some maps and hand those out. Make sure everybody understands where you're going and how to get back in case somebody gets lost or turned around. One of the things that you'll probably want to discuss in that meeting is riding in formation. So the typical riding formation is staggered with a lead and a tail rider, and all other riders are in between. The lead rider will ride to the left of the lane, and the next rider a second or two behind to the right, with each bike in a staggered formation from there. When riding curves or entering or exiting a freeway, or in other conditions where more room is needed, you may want to ride in a single file line with a minimum of 2 to 3 seconds between each motorcycle. So your lead and tail rider are going to be your most experienced riders on the trip. So it's real important that they're experienced riders, and it's real important that they know the route of the trip. Because if the riders get separated, and it's harder with larger groups to keep everybody together, but if the riders get separated at a light or something, the tail rider can move up to the front of the remaining group and help get the group back together. It's also real good in these situations for the lead and the tail rider to have some type of Bluetooth communication. That really comes in handy out on the road. If they can talk to each other and the tail rider can let the lead rider know, hey, we got 3 bikes here that got separated at the intersection, and it's a lot easier to communicate that way than having the lead rider constantly have to watch his mirrors to see if everybody got through an intersection. This next tip is probably one of the most important ones to me, and that's to make sure that you ride your own ride. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's a couple of things that I mean by riding your own ride. And first of all is don't feel pressure to keep up with the group. So if you're in a group with really experienced riders and they take off down the road and they're riding faster than you feel comfortable riding, ride your own ride. Don't feel pressure to keep up with the pack, because it's going to be much worse if you don't negotiate a curve and you have an accident than it would be for you to fall back a little bit and catch up with them at the next intersection or catch up with them later at lunch. And another one that is really important in riding your own ride is to make sure that you don't fall into target fixation on the road. So it's real easy on these types of trips to look no further than the motorcycle in front of you, which is 2 to 3 seconds if you're riding in a staggered formation. So you can fall into this lull where you're looking no more up the road than the guy in front of you. And you've probably heard those stories or seen them in the paper where a group of 10 motorcycles have all been involved in an accident. And what happens in a lot of these cases is the lead rider makes a mistake and he has an accident. Next rider rides into the same thing because he's not looking any further ahead than the bike in front of him. And so on down the line, like a bunch of lemmings, all these motorcycles go into the same trap because nobody is looking far enough up the road to see it and to break that chain. So ride your own ride. Remember, we've talked about looking up the road in the past. You generally want to know what's going on 10 seconds up the road if visibility allows, so that you can see up the road and respond to it and adjust to it rather than react to it at the last second. So ride your own ride. Ride at a pace that you're comfortable with and look up the road so that you can see hazards well ahead of time and adjust to it rather than react to it. So group riding has some advantages, meeting other people and stopping on the side of the road to chat and build camaraderie with other people. But there's also some things that you need to think about. And one of them is that sometimes you're only as good a rider as those people riding around you. So if you've got a really weak rider in the group, remember they're riding within close proximity to you. I've had a couple of experiences, one time with another rider coach, and I won't name any names here, but I stopped at a stoplight and I heard a sliding noise behind me, looked to my right, and there goes the rider coach, locked up the tires and was sliding past me at the stoplight all the way into the intersection. So a near accident just because another rider wasn't paying attention at the moment. And I had the same exact experience one time. I was contracted, myself and another rider coach, to lead some group rides for Ducati over in Dallas. So we were leading 10 to 12 Ducati motorcycles out for about a half-hour ride, and it was a fun time, and I had a blast doing it. Got paid to go ride Ducatis around, so you can't beat that. But I pulled up at a stoplight in downtown Dallas, and this time this rider had ABS on the Ducati, but I heard the tires chirping behind me, and here comes a 21-year-old on a Ducati chirping the tires with the ABS in full lock right past me and into the intersection. So you're only going to be as good as those riders around you, so make sure that you're riding with people that you trust. Or if you happen to be that weak rider, make sure you ride, like we talked about earlier, within your own limits, and that you're paying attention to what's going on around you, because it's not just you that you have to think about. It's other people riding within close proximity as well. So what about you? Do you like to travel alone, or do you like to travel with other groups? Or do you have some other tips for group riding that I may have left out here? Leave your comments and ideas below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. And until next week, guys, this is Kevin with MC Rider, and we'll see you on the road. For our supporters and patrons of MC Rider, I have a special gift this week.